I helped my cousin manage the crab pond's 11th Tangjing. We made 3 million with the autumn harvest. And yet he only sent me 50,000? He said the pond and the capital were his and that I had done nothing but throw the nets. I looked at the transfer amount on my screen. I neither refused nor protested. I simply took the money in silence. And right after that, I rented the most abandoned, foul-smelling pond in the entire village. The following summer, his pond was completely covered in dead crabs that reeked across the neighborhood, while mine were all bursting with life. Seeing his face turn pale, I took 2 steps back. At the edge of my new lush pond, "Don't come pollute my land with your poison." They say that very night, my cousin screamed on his knees in the mud until morning. He couldn't understand why my crabs were growing so well. A little earlier, I was by the century-old pond, recording the day's pH and ammonia, nitrogen levels. That's when a brand new Mercedes G-Wagon parked by the pond. My cousin, Zanfu, got out, pinching his nose with a disgusted look. He gave the mud a little kick. "Shangzi, I've done the yearly books. I'm sending you your bonus." I looked at the 50,000 yuan on the screen. Without saying a word, another calculation was running in my head. 3 years had passed, more than 1,000 days and nights, living and eating in this shack. I knew the premium crab harvest had been exceptional this year. Once the pond rent and feed costs were deducted, the net profit was close to 3 million, and he was only sending me 50,000? Xiangzi, profits are good this year. We made nearly 3 million. Take this 50,000 and buy yourself a small car in the city. The job here, throwing food into the ponds. Any dog could do it. Since you're still young, you should take this 50,000 cash to go try your luck in a big city. Listening to him, I felt absolutely no emotion. 3 years earlier, when he took over this pond, he almost lost everything because he knew nothing about water quality. I was the one who saved him with my custom bacterial culture that I had developed myself. I helped him rebalance the water. I had told him I bring the technique. We split the profits 70-30. He had replied, "We're family. Your big brother won't let you down." At that moment, I didn't even feel anger. I just put my notebook in my pocket. "Yes. All right, I accept the money." Zanfu surely didn't expect me to be so easy to dupe. He paused for a moment. "Take this money and go rest for a few days." I nodded. Then I picked up the old canvas bag, filled with worn-out clothes that was lying in a corner. "The pond pump filter needs to be changed. Remember to find someone to take care of it." Without giving him another glance, I turned my back on him and walked away into the cold autumn wind because I knew very well that without my micro-adjustments and extremely rigorous control, this seemingly fertile pond would turn into a foul-smelling cesspool. In less than 6 months, I didn't go back to my place in the city. I was afraid of running into acquaintances who would ask me how much I had made from selling the crabs or how my cousin was treating me. I kept walking down the village dirt road. The notebook I was clutching in my arms might have looked like nothing but a pile of old papers to others, but to me it represented 3 years of hard work. Just then my phone rang. It was crazy. He was sending red envelopes in the family chat group, boasting everywhere about this year's harvest. My whole family started showering him with praises. I just turned off my phone and headed toward the lowest downstream part of the village, where there lies a wasteland, a foul, abandoned black water pond, constantly flooded due to the low terrain. The water is so stagnant that even the stray dogs of the village don't dare go near it. I stood on the weed-overgrown bank, contemplating this stretch of stagnant dark green water that was turning almost black. To everyone else, it was just a dump. But I crouched down and scooped up some mud from the bottom of the pond, bringing it to my nose to smell it. An idea like a young sprout, piercing through the earth, germinated in my mind. Impossible to hold back. Didn't he say that to distribute food, even a tied-up dog could do it? Well, I was going to show him what real talent is. I turned around and headed straight for the village town hall office. "Secretary Wang, are you there?" Hi, Xiaoxiang. "Hi, aren't you busy with the pond harvest?" "No, what brings you here?" "I'd like to ask you, is the black water pond downstream available for rent right now?" "No." The secretary looked at me, dumbfounded, as if I were an idiot. "But that's a quagmire. The water is rotten. Why do you want to rent that?" "Nobody would want it even if we paid them." "How much is the annual rent?" 3. "If you really want to take it, 1,000 a year, just for the sake of it, that'll do. But let's be clear. If you lose money, the village is not responsible." I quickly calculated. 50,000 yuan was enough to rent this pond and buy the basic purification equipment and consumables. I was in a bit of a hurry. "I'll take it for 5 years. Let's sign the contract right now." The secretary had surely never seen someone so eager to jump into the fire. "Now, Xiaoxiang, don't do this on a whim. Zanfu just made a fortune, follow his example. The contract, bring it out. I am..." Once the signature and thumbprint were placed, I ran all excited to the pond. The area of the abandoned pond was huge. The cyanobacteria of an intense green formed like a thick layer of paint on the surface of the water, releasing a sharp foul odor. When the villagers learned I had rented this land, they all ran over to make fun of me. Did Shangzi lose his mind or what? What on earth can he raise in this hole? Zanfu gave him a 50,000 bonus, and instead of keeping it to get married, he throws it into this cesspool. What a waste. Zanfu also stopped by for a look in his big 4x4. He rolled down the window, dying of laughter. Ah, Xiangzi, if that 50,000 is burning a hole in your pocket, bro can take you to the city for a foot massage. Why bury yourself in this graveyard? I ignored him, dressed in my chest-high waders, and began to clear away. With difficulty, the rotten branches, in the waist-deep black water, the stench was unbearable. But I didn't even flinch, because I knew what I was doing. When evening came and the onlookers left, I opened the black plastic jugs I had brought back from the city during the day. Inside was the master solution of composite probiotics that I had secretly developed through countless efforts. This bacterial culture is specially designed for this type of stagnant and severely eutrophied water. I followed precise proportions, down to the exact gram to dilute the master solution before distributing it evenly by spraying it into every corner of the pond. This kind of work tolerates not the slightest negligence. For a whole week, I lived by night and hid by day. During the day, like a scavenger, I repaired the dikes along the pond bank. At night, I am the magician of these waters. The miracle happened at the dawn of the second week. The blue-green algae, which had been dark green, turning to black, started to disappear over large areas. The foul, sharp stench was replaced by a light scent of aquatic plants and damp earth. The water gradually became crystal clear. The sunlight could finally pierce the surface and illuminate the bottom of the pond. I struck while the iron was hot and planted carefully selected Elodia algae. In less than 15 days, the entire black water pond was transformed, full of beautiful aquatic plants and crystal clarity. Just as I was about to take a reading, my phone rang. Hello, it was Zanfu. I frowned and picked up. Hello, his voice was slurred, obviously drunk. In the background, you could hear the racket of a karaoke and the flirtatious laughter of women. So Xiangzi, still scratching the mud in that cesspool. Come on, tell me everything. As for me, I just hired some old folks from town, 80 yuan a day, just to throw the food for me. Have fun in your mud for the new year. Your big brother will give you charity with 2 sacred crabs, got it. I hung up, my face as calm as the surface of the pond before me. Zanfu is partying in the city, ignorant of how cruelly nature takes its revenge. I stepped closer and opened the last temperature-controlled polystyrene boxes. Inside were the first-generation golden armor, crab larvae, highly disease-resistant, which I had secretly set aside. Watching these tiny crystalline and translucent lives fall among the clear aquatic plants, I took my notebook and turned to a new page. I recorded the water temperature and the amount released that day. After scattering the last handful of larvae, dawn was beginning to break. I walked home through the morning mist. Taking over this abandoned pond had been an impulsive decision. But now, with hindsight, I felt a huge pressure weighing down on me. All my savings were gone, every night. I walked on eggshells, adjusting the ecosystem of this pond, which was like a powerful bottomless pit devouring all my energy. I knew I had no right to fail. I had to succeed, not just to recover my investment, but also as a matter of pride. When I got home, I pushed open the door and a good cooking smell came to tickle my nostrils. My parents and my fiancée, Xiaoya, were sitting at the table. Obviously, they were waiting for me. My mother complained, "Why didn't you come home all night? We've already reheated the dishes twice." I lied. There were a few small things left to finish at the pond. I spent more time there than expected. "No, go quickly wash your hands and eat." Xiaoya stood up and handed me a clean towel. With a worried look, "Why do you look so bad? You're exhausted, aren't you?" No, I'm fine. It's just the all-nighter." At the table, the atmosphere was a bit heavy. My mother put some food into my bowl. "Xiangzi, this year, Zanfu gave you how much money?" In the end, the question was like a needle planted in my heart. My father and Xiaoya also put down their chopsticks to look at me. I set down my bowl, took out my phone, and displayed the transfer screen. I put on a deliberately relaxed look. "Mom, the money is here, 50,000. My mother's brow immediately furrowed. 50,000? What do you mean only 50,000? In the whole village, the rumor is going around that Zanfu made nearly 3 million this year. Mom, this year, despite appearances, the loss rate was also very high. And then next year, we need to expand. There are expenses to be made everywhere. The water body, it's their capital, and they are the ones taking the risks. It's true that there isn't much left over." My father sighed, a heavy silence settling over the room. I was only an assistant to throw the food. Receiving 50,000 was already very good. My father, puffing on his pipe, said nothing. Today, Xiaoya looked at me, hesitating to speak. Only my mother had an expression of frustration and disbelief. "Impossible, that pond. If you hadn't gone there every single night to look after it, it would have been ruined long ago." Did Xiangzi get? Yes. "Mom, don't talk nonsense. Zanfu is my cousin, he wouldn't rip me off. It's normal for him to take the biggest share. We have to be fair." As I said those words, my heart bled. Every word was a betrayal of my 3 years of hard work, but I just had to say it. I couldn't let them know that I had already cut ties with Zanfu, let alone that in secret. I had taken over the most foul-smelling stagnant pond in the entire village. I didn't want them to worry and be afraid because of me. My mother wanted to add something, but my father interrupted her. "All right, let's eat. Our son knows what he's doing." In the evening, as I was lying down, Xiaoya hugged me. "Lanyan, you're weird today. You're hiding something from me, that's for sure." I turned around to take her in my arms. "No, what are you imagining? No. It's just that the night wind gave me a headache. No, really sleep now, no." Tomorrow, I'll take you for a trip to the city. The person in my arms calmed down, but I had absolutely no desire to sleep, no. I kept my eyes open, staring at the stains on the ceiling. My mind was entirely occupied by that black water pond, which was silently undergoing a radical transformation. It was my hope and my only way out. The following days were the busiest of the year in the village. Every family was calculating their harvest and getting ready to slaughter the pig for the new year. I too acted as if nothing was wrong, spending my days with my parents and Xiaoya doing the new year shopping, as if nothing had happened. But one thing was constantly on my mind: the water quality of that pond. The report from the water analysis laboratory arrived on the third day. After I put the fry in, "Sir, good news. The results for your water sample have arrived. Ammonia, nitrogen, and nitrites have all dropped below the safety threshold. The dissolved oxygen is extremely high. The ecological cycle of the bacterial colony is now completely established." At that moment, I was helping Xiaoya choose the parallel couplets for the new year. Upon receiving the call, I was so excited that I almost knocked over the stall. I lowered my voice and walked away to the street corner. "That's awesome. And the water transparency. The transparency is excellent. The mud, algae, and aquatic plants are growing beautifully. It fully meets the standards of a first-class ecological water body. It's a textbook case of old pond restoration. Thank you. Your technique is incredible. Perfect. Thank you for your work." After hanging up, a huge weight was lifted off my shoulders. The water quality was good, which meant this pond truly belonged to me. Thank you. All that was left was to wait for these young golden armor crabs to grow. During this time, Zanfu also called me several times. The first time was to ask me how I plan to spend the 50,000 yuan. "Hey Xiangzi, don't do anything foolish with that money. Keep it to renovate your parents' old house and set the rest aside for your wedding." His tone was that of an elder lecturing a junior, full of the superiority of someone giving charity. I replied calmly, "Understood, cousin." The second call was on New Year's Eve. "So tomorrow at noon, at the most expensive Wangxiang restaurant in town. I'm the one who booked everything. I especially invited the whole village family and a few wholesalers. We hit it big this year. We have to celebrate it properly, yeah." I can almost imagine his pretentious face right now. He just wants to brag about his good harvest in front of everyone. And while he's at it, display his great tolerance and benevolence toward me, using me as a prop to show off his success? No way. "Brofu, the house is a bit messy. Come on, don't be coy. It's settled. Be there early tomorrow to help me welcome the guests." He hung up without giving me time to answer. Phone in hand, I let out a sneer. "You want to play a part, huh? Then let's play. We'll see just how long. You're fragile. Lousy farm can hold out." At noon on New Year's Eve, I went anyway with my parents and Xiaoya to the largest private room of the Wangxiang restaurant. There were easily 5 tables set up. Upon entering, I immediately saw my cousin. He was at the head table with his parents and a few wholesale buyers laughing and chatting gaily. "Ah, here comes the uncle's family. Come in. Have a seat." He welcomed us loudly, but his gaze swept over my parents' modest clothes. With obvious condescension, my cousin walked over and slapped me on the shoulder. Xiangzi, there you are." He pointed to a woman next to him, dressed in a fur coat and heavily made up, and introduced her to me. "This is your sister-in-law, Lily." "Hi, Lily. This is my cousin, Zhang Xiang, whom I told you about. He works at the farm. He gives me a hand in managing everything over there." In the room, all eyes turned to me. My parents' faces immediately tensed up. The hand of Xiaoya squeezed my arm so hard I could feel her, trembling, yes. But I just smiled. I nodded toward this Lily. "Hello, sister-in-law. I'm Xiang." My calmness seemed to surprise Zanfu. He was probably expecting to see me uneasy or embarrassed, but there was none of that. The meal then became my cousin's one-man show. 1 minute, he was talking about the great crab season this year. The next about some big boss who already wanted to reserve next year's production. Finally, he brought the conversation back to me. Then, raising his glass to the whole table of family and guests, he said, "This little Xiangzi is way too honest. He helped me at the farm for 3 years in all kinds of weather. Even if we can't talk about merit, he really labored hard." So I took the initiative to give him a red envelope of 50,000 a few days ago so he could enjoy the holidays a bit. Tell me, am I not a good big brother, huh? Yes, of course. What a big brother Zanfu has really made it. He eats the meat, but he doesn't forget to leave a little broth for his brother. Jiangzi is a simple person. He's not made for business. He can only work hard. So it's a stroke of luck that Zanfu took him under his wing. It's a blessing for him, But I heard that our Jiangzi also rented a pond recently. And apparently it's the barren pond right next to his. The one that nobody wanted. Xiaoxiang, is it true? Yes. Why didn't you tell us anything? No. My father looked at me without saying anything. Xiaoya squeezed my hand even harder. My cousin immediately flashed a big smile upon hearing that. So Xiangzi, such an important decision, and you don't talk to the family about it. You could have at least kept that 50,000 to buy something nice for your uncle and aunt. Now all that money is thrown out the window, but if you lose money later, you can always come back. Next time your big brother will take good care of you, Hearing that, I gritted my teeth in silence. They were playing off each other, making me out to be a minion who needed their charity. My parents' faces had turned. Crimson Xiaoya's eyes were completely red. Yet I picked up my glass and stood up. Bro, Fo, thanks for taking care of me these past 3 years. This glass I dedicate it to you, thank you. I threw my head back and drank my glass of liquor in one shot. Everyone was stunned. My cousin looked at me, a flash of pride and satisfaction in his eyes. He thought I had given in. But in reality, it wasn't to him that I was raising this toast. It was to our family bond that he himself had buried. With this glass, everything is wiped clean. Leaving the restaurant, Dad had a dark face and didn't say a word. Mom kept on sighing. Xiaoya walked silently by my side, clinging tightly to my arm. I knew they were all boiling with rage. Arriving near the house, I spoke up. Dad, Mom, sorry. I made you go through this humiliation today. Alas. Jiangzi, are you going to manage all on your own with your crabs? Or not, if you run out of money? You absolutely must tell us. That's right, Xiangzi. Don't worry if people talk behind your back. The important thing is that our family is doing well. Xiaoxiang, don't be afraid. Keep doing what you need to do. I will always support you. Seeing them, my heart warmed up, but at the same time, my determination grew stronger. Dad, Mom, Xiaoya, don't worry, thank you. I have confidence in my crabs. Just give me a little time. The honor I lost today, I will win it back entirely. My tone was calm, but every word was filled with undeniable strength. They looked at me as if gripped by my gaze. After sending them inside, I stayed alone in the yard for a long time. My phone vibrated. It was an alert from the waterproof surveillance camera that I had installed at the bottom of the pond. I opened the app. A clear underwater image appeared. In the limpid water, the Elodia weeds swayed with the current and hidden by the aquatic plants. The first-generation baby crabs, the size of a coin with a golden armor, were searching for food with overflowing energy. Watching this video, I felt a new rush of adrenaline rise within me. Over the next few months, I behaved exactly as I had in previous years. In the spring, the village became lively again. When people asked me what I planned to do this year, I always used the same old excuses to dodge the question. Many people looked at me with pity and sometimes brought up the joke of me renting that dead pond. Xiangzi, that father and son, might have bad tempers, but at least they pay well. Why do you persist with that stinking hole? True aquaculture is not easy these days. It's better to rely on solid support than to throw your money out the window. All these words, they went in one ear and out the other. I know they didn't mean any harm. They only see appearances. They see the success of Zanfu, who expanded his shed this year, and they see the decline of my family. Nobody knows that beneath the surface of the calm water, the storm has been brewing for a long time. And nobody knows either that I'm waiting for the right moment, a moment that will be enough to sweep away all doubts. Summer quickly arrived. The weather forecast issued several consecutive orange heatwave alerts. Crabs fear the heat above all else. I knew my time had come. I wanted to see, without my water quality management techniques, how Zanfu was going to survive this heat wave. I then turned off the TV and turned to my parents. Dad, Mom, tomorrow I'm moving into the shack by the pond. It's possible that I won't come home for a while. The next day I got up before dawn. I didn't disturb anyone and discreetly put on my waders. Before heading out, I looked at the closed door of my parents' room, and in silence I said to myself, Dad, Mom, please, trust your son one last time. This time I won't disappoint you anymore. I won't let anyone look down on our family ever again. I went out and headed straight toward the pond downstream of the village. I pulled up a trap resting at the bottom of the water. Despite today's exceptional heat, my net was filled with superb, big and robust Chinese mitten crabs. The bottom of the pond was flawless. I checked the aquatic plants, the mud, the dissolved oxygen level. I measured every single indicator one by one. All data were perfectly normal. I pressed the pump switch. The water gushed out, gently rippling the entire surface of the pond. I could clearly feel a powerful life force surging at the bottom of this water. From this moment on, I will never care about the judgment of others again. But I didn't announce the good news about the water quality to anyone. Before the show began, I had to make sure there wasn't a single flaw. I did a meticulous inspection all around my pond. I noticed that it was enough to throw a handful of bait to instantly cause a frantic rush, much better than those apathetic crabs in Zanfu's ponds. Mine were infinitely more vigorous. He always said that his pond was a place blessed by feng shui, capable of producing the biggest crabs, but he never listened to my advice feeding them low-quality dead fish all year round. The humus at the bottom of his pond had crossed safety standards long ago. The mud was black, foul-smelling, and at the slightest heat, a layer of blue-green algae would float on the surface, like a brewing pot of poison. To keep that pond afloat I had to go there every night to spread antidotes and run the aerators at full blast. Over these past 3 years, the money I saved him in chemicals and crab losses exceeded hundreds of thousands, but he always took it for granted. He thought that because he paid the pond rent, nature owed him an unconditional return on investment. That's when Zanfu, who was in the city, called me again. Hello, Xiangzi. Are you enjoying the AC at home? Not going to see your stinking cesspool, huh? I hope you didn't stay in your shack. With this kind of heat, don't linger outside. He paused. Tomorrow morning at 6 a.m., bring a few large dip nets, and meet me at the edge of my pond. The old guard says the water is a bit cloudy, and there are a few dead crabs floating around. Yeah, come help me scoop them up. We can't let the others in the village see that. It brings bad luck, His tone was still just as disconcertingly natural, as if giving an order to a common lackey. I gripped my phone, the knuckles of my fingers turning white, but my voice remained calm when I replied. All right, Zanfu, I got it, thank you. Hello? In the evening, Xiaoya arrived at the shack with some mung bean soup. Seeing me on high alert, she seemed surprised. This weather is truly abnormal. There isn't a breath of wind. I saw several village dogs sticking their tongues out because of the heat. How will the crabs in the ponds bear it? If they lack oxygen, all these months of work will be lost. Tonight, don't sleep too deeply. Remember to turn on the aerator several times. I took her in my arms. Don't worry, my ecosystem is already well established. Tonight, even if the sky falls on our heads, the water in this pond will remain stable. Then Xiaoya looked up and stared at me. Zhang Xiang, are you hiding something from me? Of course not, silly girl. What could there possibly be? Just wait until the sun rises tomorrow, and I'll show you a miracle. I didn't tell her. The catastrophe that risked happening tonight? No, it wasn't that I didn't trust her. It's just that this disaster promised to be terrible, and I didn't want her to go through this anxiety with me. All the verifications and the consequences, I would face them alone when the night turned pitch black. My father arrived on his tricycle. He brought me a high-power water pump. We stayed there, father and son, silent at the edge of the pond in the suffocating heat. Dad! His voice was a bit raspy. Zhangzi, this weather isn't normal. Dad, I'm fine. Go home quickly and rest. It's too heavy out. I'm not tired. It's just that I'm uneasy. This weather looks exactly like the one 10 years ago. During the Great Famine, in the middle of the night, all the crabs had crawled up onto the bank. He pulled a crumpled savings account book from his pocket and forced it into my hand. There's 20,000 in there. It's the money that your mother and I saved up for food this year. Take it if the water quality ever degrades. You'll need to buy chemicals in an emergency. Having a little extra money can't hurt. Take it. Take it. Looking at the book in my hand, my eyes immediately welled up with tears. Dad, I can't accept this. My pawn parameters are excellent. Take it. Nature is unpredictable. She doesn't show mercy. You fighting here all by yourself. It's harder for you than for us. I squeezed that booklet tightly, so hard that my nails dug into my palm. I didn't refuse anymore, because I knew it was the most concrete support, the most precious thing my parents could offer me. In my heart, I swore to myself, to wait for the autumn harvest, I would return it tenfold. 100-fold, I would give them the best life possible. That night, sitting on the folding bed, in the shack, I didn't close an eye. At 2 o'clock in the morning, I bounded out of bed before going out. I checked the thermometer and hygrometer on the wall. Humidity, 95%, atmospheric pressure extremely low. I followed the dirt road to the wire fence separating my pond from Zanfu's. I stood in the darkness. Before me was Zanfu's pond, that famous treasure that, according to him, was supposed to bring him 5 million this year. But at this moment, a thick layer of mucus, smooth and shiny, floated on the surface of the water, even in the dark. A faint glow was enough to reveal that sickening fluorescent green color. It was a massive bloom of cyanobacteria. I approached, but without turning on the aerator, and without trying to intervene in the situation. Even the gods couldn't have done anything about it. I turned to look at my other pond, the one with the black waters. It lay there in silence, a few aerators churning the water rhythmically. At the bottom of the clear water, tufts of aquatic weeds released fine bubbles, and between the roots, one by one, enormous crabs rested peacefully on the mud. Without the slightest sign of agitation, I was crouching on the dike, filled with absolute joy. Meanwhile, Zanfu's pond was filled with green, toxic and deadly water. I couldn't see anything, but I could hear everything very clearly. More and more splashes began to be heard on the surface. It was the sound of countless crabs suffocating because of the extreme lack of oxygen. They were desperately trying to climb up the misty dike, trampling over each other, spitting out a foam of despair. Finally, they all flipped over, bellies up, before dying en masse on the dike. Very quickly, dawn broke. A foul stench of dead crabs drifted in the wind. To the village that until now had been asleep, was instantly plunged into chaos. I stayed at the edge of my pond, observing the scene in silence. Less than 20 minutes later, a deafening screech of tires echoed on the dam road. My cousin Zanfu tumbled out of his big Mercedes 4x4. At that moment, seeing the pond full of dead crab carcasses and the blue-green algae covering the surface like a layer of green paint, he let out a soul-crushing scream. Then, mad with rage, he wept and howled at the water's edge, probably hearing the sound of the aerators on my side. He abruptly turned his head and ran toward me. Stumbling along, he saw me, and above all, he saw behind me this lush ecological park, with crystal clear water, as well as those enormous river crabs with golden armor, quietly searching for their food at the bottom of the water. His face, twisted by despair, turned pale. His voice trembled like a leaf, full of shock and disbelief. Zhangzi, is this disgusting pond? I looked at him calmly. What do you think, and why do you think your crabs are fine? Because I know how to respect nature, while you only know how to calculate. Suddenly, as if clutching at a lifeline, Zanfu threw himself to the ground. Zhangzi, I was wrong. I acted badly before. Quick, give me your miracle cure. That help me treat my water for a month, okay? I'll give you 20,000 a month. Yes, quick. Save my pond. He begged me humbler than ever. Yes. It was at that exact moment that several refrigerated trucks, bearing the logo of luxury aquatic products, parked right next to me. I turned around, ignoring his laments. I put on my waterproof waders and stepped straight into the water. I pulled a specimen weighing over 350 grams out of a trap, a premium quality crab with a green back, and a white belly, the king of crabs. On the shore, the purchasing director of a major Shanghai restaurant, who had come specially for the occasion, had eyes that sparkled. Oh, what a beautiful crab. Boss Zhang, this quality is exceptional. I handed the crab to the director. Then I turned around to look at Zanfu covered in mud on the ground. My voice contained neither mockery nor anger, nothing but a freezing indifference. Take 2 steps back to avoid bringing the blue-green algae toxins from your pond into my ecological park. And by the way, all my crabs have already been reserved at a premium price. Keep your 20,000 to pay your penalties for breach of contract. After saying that, without granting him a single glance more, I turned around to direct the workers for the loading. Basket after basket, these exceptional crabs were loaded into the refrigerated trucks. The purchasing director couldn't stop smiling as he looked at the weigh slip. For this first batch, I'll settle with you at the highest market rate, and I am also reserving your entire production for next year. It's a pleasure doing business with you. I shook his hand. Right after the first down payment of exactly 1 million was credited directly to my account. That long string of numbers displayed on the screen, everything was fine. It was the perfect result that I obtained after taking off on my own. Meanwhile, just on the other side of the fence, Zanfu completely collapsed in the mud. He watched those high-end refrigerated trucks overflowing with wealth, leaving my land one after the other, and he finally understood what he had just lost. That's when his phone started ringing like crazy. It was the big clients who had ordered the gift boxes for the Mid-Autumn Festival. Hello, Mr. Zhang. What's the status of my order? Zanfu's voice was even more terrible than weeping. Listen to me closely. It's written in black and white in the contract. Oh. The words died in his throat as he looked at his dead crabs. If you don't deliver those premium crabs, you will pay 3 times the amount of the penalties and don't hope to negotiate a single cent. The line went dead. Zanfu looked as if his spine had been completely broken. To land those high-paying orders this year, he had signed risky performance agreements with several distributors. At the time, he was bursting with confidence because he thought he could reap the rewards without doing anything, just like last year. But now that I'm gone, all he has left is toxic stagnant water and a pond filled with dead crabs. These penalties, which amount to millions, crashed down on him like a collapsing mountain. The morning sun filtered through the light mist, making the water surface sparkle. My mood was just as radiant as his beautiful weather. It was a totally new experience for me. Before in Zanfu's high-risk pond, my nerves were always on edge. I constantly had to monitor the water quality to keep it from degrading, and fear of blue-green algae bloom. The slightest gust of wind or rain became a real gamble. But now, standing at the edge of my own ecological park, with perfect water, vigorous young crabs, and a totally controlled environment, I feel, for the first time, the pleasure of savoring the harvest instead of just slaving away. Seeing the last refrigerated truck pass the village exit, I brushed the dirt off my hands. Thanks to this money, I will not only be able to expand this ecological park, but above all, it will allow me to make a definitive name for myself in this industry. From now on, I won't have to worry about finding high-end outlets. So when all the crabs of this season are sold, I'll go buy my own apartment in the city, and I'll have my parents' old courtyard renovated, so they can live out their days happily. All these scenes that I wouldn't have even dared to dream of before, but now everything is within arm's reach. I went back home for lunch. Unlike before, I wasn't exhausted to the point of collapsing on my bed from sleepless nights. I took a hot shower, sat down at the table, and shared a hearty meal with my parents and little Ya. At the table, I showed them my account balance. My mother had tears of emotion in her eyes, and my father was trembling so much that he dropped his chopsticks. It's good, it's good. Yes, it's really good. Our Xiangzi succeeded. After the meal, I went back to my room and locked my old laptop away in the deepest drawer of my desk. Then I lay down on my bed and fell into a deep sleep. It was a particularly sweet and pleasant nap. In my dream, I felt like I was reliving that autumn when we had shared the profits with Zanfu. He transferred the 50,000 to my account, still with that condescending expression as if he were giving me charity. But this time I didn't stay silent. I smiled a smile even brighter than his while sitting by the pond sipping the ice-cold watermelon juice that little Ya had brought. On the other side of the wall, Zanfu was living the most desperate day of his life. The resounding slap his father dealt him brutally brought him back to reality. Last year's profits. He had already squandered them all, and this year, he had signed a contract involving several millions with huge penalties. If he failed to deliver the exceptional quality crabs, the breach of contract damages would be enough to ruin his family. He began to make calls frantically. Hello, Technician Wang. I'll give you 5,000 a day. Come help me clear up my water, thank you. Hey boss Lee, you wouldn't happen to have a super powerful weed killer. I'll buy it no matter the price. He called everyone in his directory who knew even a little bit about aquaculture. At first he still kept his grand attitude as a boss, but reality quickly caught up with him with a monumental slap. Brofo, your water has already turned. Even a god could no longer save it. Every call ended with the same answer. That's when he realized that without me, his pond wasn't even better than a foul cesspool. He had always believed that throwing food and tying a dog to a post was enough. It's only now that he understood how much effort and sweat I had to spend to keep that toxic water under control for 3 years. And the most laughable thing is that he had himself, with his own hands for 50,000 yuan, thrown away his true lucky charm. Today, have you found someone? Anfu shook his head dejected. His mother eyes red said beside him, What if you went to see Xiangzi, give him more money? 100,000, 200,000. As long as he agrees to give you his miracle product. Never, never. Lily let him go beg me, yes, me beg. This cousin whom he chased away like a beggar with 50,000 yuan, he was incapable of doing it. At that moment, his fiancée Lily came out, designer bag in hand and suitcase in tow. Lily, what are you doing? What I'm doing, you are going to find yourself with millions of debts on your back. Do you think I'm going to stay here and starve to death with you? Zanfu, his eyes bloodshot, tried to hold her back. You bitch. Lily gave him a kick. Get lost, incompetent. Good for nothing. She left without even turning around. 3 days later, my first batch of exceptional quality, Jinxie crabs, was completely harvested. A payment of 2 million, flawless, the sum was transferred to my account. Down to the last penny, I look at the SMS on my phone. Seeing this long string of numbers, I feel an unprecedented peace of mind. I didn't go buy myself a Mercedes G-Class instead. I directly took Xiaoya to see the most beautiful residences in the city. We paid cash for a large 140 square meter apartment. The property deed was established in both our names. When I returned to the village, the wind had completely turned. The ecological park with crystal clear waters became the miracle of the village. Those who used to mock me now call me brother. Sighing while at Zanfu's, the door is being smashed in by creditors. To repay the huge penalty for breach of contract, his house was put up for sale with a real estate agent, and his car was pawned. The pond that was supposed to make him rich became a real hot potato. That day, I was at the edge of the pond, directing the workers for reinforcement work. On the other side of the fence, I hear a shrill argument. It's a crooked boss specializing in the recovery of abandoned pools, who is driving down the price for Zanfu. The bottom of your pond is completely rotten. Just the dredging will cost tens of thousands. For the pond and the equipment, I'll give you at most 20,000. 20,000. No, just these few aerators cost me several tens of thousands. Take it or leave it apart from me. Nobody will want your quagmire. Zanfu, he just stands there, clenching and unclenching his fist. Finally, like a deflated balloon, he nods his head helplessly. Once the transfer is signed, the boss takes out 20,000 in cash and throws it at him. It's at that moment that Zanfu looks up. Through the wire fence, he spots me. I hold a walkie-talkie in my hand. I manage with calm the departure of the next refrigerated truck. I don't grant him the slightest look. This total indifference is more devastating for him than a slap right in the face. He looks at my straight posture, then the thin wad of 20,000 in his hand. A wave of indescribable regret submerges his reason. He lets out a cry and rushes like a madman toward a water pump abandoned on the shore. He grabs an adjustable wrench on the ground and strikes with all his might. The pump that was worth tens of thousands instantly turns into a pile of scrap metal. My business took off. The previous buyer became my most loyal client. No longer content with just this single pond, I started an aquaculture technology company. I leased hundreds of hectares of water bodies downstream from the village and set up a cooperative. I brought in the honest and hardworking people of the village, and I personally taught them the breeding techniques. The base salary I offer is the highest in the sector, with a year-end bonus on top. Everyone says that with brother Xiang they feel secure one day. As I was reviewing reports in my office, a strong scent of perfume drifted through the air. It was Lily. She approached my desk, swaying her hips. Xiangzi? Boss Zhang. I always knew you were a man of great stature. She gave me an enticing wink and her hand tried to rest on my desk, but I didn't even look up. Get out. Lily's smile froze on her face, and finally escorted out by security, she ran away. Pitifully in her high heels, I will never allow that kind of filth to get near my world. Autumn arrived, and the wedding between Xiaoya and me took place as planned. That day, I booked the best hotel in the city, and the car procession crossed the city from the village to the center. It was grandiose. A few days before the wedding, I received a phone call from my former aunt-in-law. She was weeping her heart out. Xiangzi, I beg of you, please. His father and he spend their days carrying bricks on construction sites and their nights drinking. The alcohol is destroying him. Could you help him a little? Yes, I beg you. The day when your whole family humiliated me and bragged at the table. Why didn't you think of lending me a hand? I am not a charity. He chose this path, it's up to him to face it. With that, I hung up and blocked her. Yes, I won't kick him while he's down, but I certainly won't return good for evil. Yes, on the wedding day. The hall was full of prestigious guests. I carried Xiaoya in her pristine white wedding dress stepping down. From the car under the cheers of our relatives and friends, out of the corner of my eye, I spotted across the street a man in dirty work clothes, with messy hair hiding behind a utility pole and staring intently in our direction. It was Zanfu. He watched the fireworks illuminating the sky, his eyes filled with deep jealousy and despair. I cast a brief glance at him before turning my eyes away and deeply kissed my new bride. In the blink of an eye, winter was back. Outside, heavy snowflakes were falling. Inside, the heating was on full blast. Xiaoya's belly had grown quite round. She was leaning against my shoulder. Nearby, my parents were chatting and laughing about what name to give their future grandson. The local news was playing on the television. Recently, our city's police force successfully dismantled an underground gambling ring. The image shifted, showing handcuffed suspects being led into police cars. One of the figures immediately caught my attention. Zanfu. He looked even worse, off than the last time, with dark circles around his eyes like a living dead. The news broadcast explained that he had accumulated massive debts with loan sharks and with no way out. He had participated in scams and illegal gambling. He was probably going to spend the rest of his life in prison. Looking at his face, I felt no joy, only peace. When someone decides to sink into the mud, nobody can pull them out. I took the remote control and changed it to a lively variety show. Laughter filled the living room once again. I gently placed my hand on Xiaoya's belly, feeling the active movements of the baby inside. Just like that. Ecological body of water about to be reborn in the spring full of life and vitality. I held my own steering wheel firmly in my hands, and the road ahead of me was wide open.